So a year ago, about a year ago, I had done videos about this best friend of JFK's. He had this best buddy friend from prep school. It's who he went to Europe with, backpacking, where he, was meeting Nazis, or soon to be Nazis, really, but, just all over Europe. Like your typical story, these were prep school best friends and they were backpacking through Europe, okay? Anyway, his name was Lem Billings. Lem Billings. His full name was Kirk Lemoyne Lem Billings, but he went by Lem, okay? This is Lem. This is when him and JFK were in, backpacking through Europe. There's very few pictures you won't find him in, unless it's a professional picture of the Kennedys, and because he was such a good friend that he went everywhere. He even had a room in the White House. But he didn't want to take, like JFK had offered him all these different spots. He didn't want him until JFK told him he could be the head of the Kennedy Arts and Performance Center. So for a long time, since this person was living in the White House, the press didn't really know, was this family, who was this, and they weren't really telling anybody. But they finally did, and they said, oh, this is JFK's best friend from prep school. He's living in the White House. Yeah, he had a room in the White House. But again, he didn't want any positions, but he still stayed in the White House. He went on vacation with the family. In fact, it caused issues with Jackie and JFK because he was always there. Yes, always. He was close to the whole family, though. In fact, after JFK was assassinated, he had really gone into a depression, but he stayed close to the Kennedys. And I guess he became, after RFK Sr. was assassinated, he became like a father figure mentor to RFK Jr. Jackie O started really taking issue because of the fact that he would even go on vacations with them. And again, he's living in the White House, yet he doesn't have an official role, not until JFK was like, you want to be the head of, the Kennedy Arts Center? And he was like, that's what I want, because he wanted to be on the board of culture for America. So the thing to know about Lem Billings is that Lem Billings was gay. No big deal. But he was attracted to JFK. Very attracted to him. But JFK did not reciprocate on his advances because, of course, JFK loved women. And there's a reason I'm bringing this up, and it's really strange because when he died, and I forget what year Lem Billings died, but he was so, and just so people know, Lem Billings, he was an American businessman known for his close and longtime friendship with JFK. They met in preparatory school. They were roommates. He was an usher at JFK's wedding, a big campaigner for his presidential bid. And Joe Kennedy called him his second son. And sometimes Lem would escort several of the Kennedy women. He was the trustee for the Kennedy Family Trust. But as I said, Lem was in love with JFK. And JFK was not, did not feel the same way, but he wanted to remain best friends, such best friends that he lived in the White House, okay? So, which is bringing me to somebody that was charged back in '69 by the Attorney General of New Orleans, James Garrison. He did charge somebody, not Lem, but he charged this man. And again, the Attorney General for New Orleans was Jim Garrison. And he prosecuted Shaw, and then there was another one, but he was already dead, because he said that this was a conspiracy of a triangulation assassination. Let me read what it says. It says, Jim Garrison prosecuted Shaw. This is Shaw, Clay Shaw. His name is Clay Shaw. On the charge that he and a group of activists, including David Ferrie and Guy Bannister, both of them were dead. Otherwise, the Attorney General would have went after them, but they were already dead. So he charged that he and a group of activists, including David Ferrie and Guy Bannister, were involved in a conspiracy with elements of the CIA in the JFK assassination. Garrison had Shaw arrested on March 1st, 1967. And Garrison believed that Shaw, this guy, was the man named as Clay Bertrand. So Clay Bertrand was a name, an alias, that was used during the Warren Commission. And he actually, it was one of his aliases. Garrison said that Shaw used the alias Clay Bertrand. I'm sorry. Yeah, Clay Bertrand. But the yeah, he used it as an alias, but that's not all that went on here. And this guy was a decorated military vet, but Clay Shaw was an American businessman, military officer, and part-time contact for the Domestic Contact Service, DCS, of the CIA. Shaw is best known for being the only person brought to trial for involvement in the assassination of JFK. Shaw was ultimately acquitted in 1969 after less than an hour of jury deliberation. The thing to know about him is he was gay. And part of the Attorney General's argument is that this was a gay thrill kill. This is him when he's older. Clay Shaw. He was also a published playwright, best known for his works of Submerged. That's what it was called, 1929. He co-wrote it with somebody. In May 1961, Shaw, this is Shaw, introduced Charles Cabell, deputy director of the CIA, at a Foreign Policy Association event in New Orleans. So he had connections to the CIA, clearly. And so what Garrison's argument was, he said that this was I want to get the quote right here. He said the conversation, so Garrison called insurance salesman Perry Russo as his main witness. Russo testified that he had attended a party at the apartment of an anti-Castro activist, David Ferrie. At the party, Russo said that Lee Harvey Oswald, who Russo said was introduced to him as Leon Oswald, Ferrie, and Clem Bertrand, who Russo identified in the courtroom as Shaw, but Clem, had discussed assassinating Kennedy. The conversation included plans for the triangulation of Crossfire, which is in quotes, and alibis for the participants. Clem, his name was Clay Shaw, but Clem Bertrand, and again, the Clay Bertrand was what was mentioned in the Warren Commission, but he was introduced to Oswald as Clem. It just reminds me of Kennedy's old friend. It's not. I'm just saying it's kind of close. Clem. Okay? But, of course, then it was all thrown out. But the thing is that he was gay, Clay Shaw. So Garrison, the Attorney General, believed that this man was the Clay Bertrand that was mentioned in the Warren Commission. Garrison said that Shaw used the alias of Clay Bertrand in New Orleans Gay Society. So then at some point you have to start to wonder, was there some truth to what Jim Garrison was saying, that this was a gay thrill kill? Because again, Lem Billings loved JFK. It was known that he was in love with him, but that Kennedy didn't feel the same way.